My parents immigrated from India to the U.S. in the 70s. And so growing up, I was born and brought up in the U.S. and I didn't have a strong relationship to India. But that changed in college when I was studying electrical engineering and started a project in my mother's ancestral village to power a school with solar. And that put on my radar not only my own personal connection to South Asia as a whole, but also the tremendous societal inequities that exist between farmers in one side who are incredibly talented at growing crops with minimal resources and the kinds of opportunities that I was born into in the US. And so a lot of my work has been driven by just trying to close this gap of opportunity that exists between people who are born in one side of the world versus another. So I started a company with a promise to a group of farmers that if they'd grow tea, I'd set up a company in the US to sell it. The next year I came back to get what I thought would be the first harvest and had fundraised publicly in a Kickstarter campaign to raise the funds to go buy this first season harvest. Went there and learned that there was no tea at all. The harvest had failed, and turns out you need 3 years before a tea bush can start being harvested. So we had no idea what we were doing. It was despair. That's what I felt. And then afterwards, recognize that I have two options. I can go home with nothing, or I can try to do something. So we basically began to rapidly network out and found that about 4 hours away was a small movement already happening in tea. And so I traveled over there, met with the farmers, showed them the example of the tea that we were trying to make that I already sold. The resilience that that kind of situation creates is so important to the social entrepreneurial journey. I'd say the way we balance those two impulses is to always center on the impact, always center on the mission. And by leading with that in the way we present it, it just influences all the conversations we have. As an example of like an investor conversation, often I just get initially just written off. Interesting, but I heard this before, I separate my philanthropy from my finances. And I respect that approach, but I think it's also the idea that these things are separate camps and never the two shall meet, I think is a falsehood. And we live in a time where businesses can have mission at the center of their work and be financially lucrative. If you take the leap, 10,000 hands will reach out to catch you. And that has really proven true in my experience, that people want to support things that are creating some version of a better world. And the support that you might need that you don't have now probably is out there. And by being comfortable taking those leaps, we often end up in more interesting places than we would otherwise.